Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth will call Ms. Laura Sullivan to the stand.
And Mr. Lally, I'd like you to tell me when you want me to give that instruction.
I think it's...
So just wave it from it, flag it for me.
Sure.
Step up. Face the clerk when sworn in by raising your right hand.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Laura Sullivan, Sullivan.
And where do you live?
Pembroke, Massachusetts.
And how long have you lived in Pembroke?
Almost 6 years.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Pembroke with?
I live with my boyfriend and our 3 children. 2 stepchildren that are with us half the time, and then my son, Ben.
And your son, how old is he?
He's 10.
I'm sorry.
10. Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. And your stepchildren, how old are they?
15 and 13.
Now, do you work, ma'am?
I do.
What do you do?
I work in human resources.
How long have you been doing that?
Just over 6 years.
Ma'am, if I could turn your attention to New Year's Eve of 2021 into New Year's Day 2022. Do you recall that time frame?
I do.
And do you recall where you were?
I was in Aruba.
And if you could explain to the jury sort of how often, was that a regular trip that you did around that time of year?
Yeah. We've been doing a trip like around that time for, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. This will be our 6th year, I believe.
And over the course of those 5 or 6 years that you've done that, when you say sort of we, how did that start and how has that expanded, if at all? So
we've been going, Josh and I have been going to Aruba for years. In 2021, post-COVID, we decided to bring our children. We had never gone with them before. And since it was post-COVID, a lot of people are kind of stir crazy. And a group of our friends jumped on board. And so we went from just the 5 of us going to approximately 60 people.
And as far as yourself and or the other people, how, is this all at one sort of facility or how were the bookings done?
So we all stayed at the Renaissance, which is in downtown, and we buy timeshares. So it was a timeshare resort where we would purchase weeks that people owned. And so if they weren't going for that year, we would buy a week. So we were able to get, I think it was something, close to 20 rooms for all of us to go for the same week.
And as far as the planning in regard to that year in particular, when did that planning process sort of begin?
It starts approximately a year in advance because the rooms go on sale almost immediately because people want to get rid of them. So I would say it was probably around January of 2021 that we booked our room for that year.
And once you had booked your room, as far as the family and friends group that you were talking about, how was that sort of put out to them, like through what means?
We would, I would post on Facebook, more rooms are available for Aruba if anybody was interested in going. So the timeshare owners would reach out to me directly. Is there anybody else who would want to go? And we would look for any interested, either friends or what have you, to join our trip.
And so at some point in time over the summer of 2021, say July or August or so, was there someone who, a friend of yours that reached out in regard to joining or possibly coming on the trip?
Yeah, I received a text message from John O'Keefe interested in learning more information about our trip.
And if you could describe to the jury sort of, how did you know John?
I met John in May of 2013. I met him at a bar in South Boston with, he was with Pat Rogers at the time. Post meeting John, I started dating Pat, and my son's father is Pat Rogers. And
If I could stop you there just
Yep.
for a moment. So as far as John O'Keefe and your son's father, Pat Rogers, did you know or did you come to know sort of what they did for a living?
yeah, they were both Boston police officers.
And did you know sort of what the relationship was beyond co-workers of Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Rogers?
Yeah. They were best friends.
So at some point following that meeting in 2013, you began to date Mr. Rogers, is that right?
Correct.
And what happened?
So in July of 2013, I became pregnant. And in November of 2013, Pat committed suicide.
And okay.
Yeah.
Following that, how would you describe sort of your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, or how did it evolve?
So in November of 2013, I was on a work trip, and I had not had the best conversation with Pat. It was kind of, it just didn't feel right. And I called John and said, you need to go find him. I can't get a hold of him. He won't answer his phone. And so John left his nephew's birthday party and called a bunch of people on the way. And ultimately, Pat was found in the basement of his house. And John was there immediately following, but he was the one that found people to go find Pat. Immediately following that, John never really left my side, as a support system.
And at some point following that, you had your son.
Yeah.
And before or after that, at some point, did you have a conversation with Mr. O'Keefe in regard to your son?
It was his birthday, December of 2013, and we went to the Playwright, which is where we had all met. And I gave him a card, and I asked him to be Ben's godfather, and he said yes.
And in relation to your son, was Mr. O'Keefe, was John involved in your son's life?
Yes, very much so.
And how so?
He was every birthday, Christmas. He was always in contact. He was the first person in my delivery room after I gave birth. He was a constant. He was a connection to Pat, and always making sure that, you know, Ben was taken care of in the sense of, you know, being there to tell stories or what have you from his relationship with Pat.
And through sort of his relationship with you and your son, Mr. O'Keefe also become familiar with your family as well?
Yeah. Yep.
And in regard to your family, was there some kind of term, or how would they refer to Mr. O'Keefe?
The Godfather. He was called the Godfather to almost everybody.
Now, ma'am, if I can turn your attention back to that summer of 2021, you received a text from Mr. O'Keefe, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
So I'm
also,
sorry, you do have to say yes or no.
Oh, sorry, yes.
after you received that text, did you reach out to Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, I gave him a call because I was excited. I was immediately excited. I gave him a call, explained to him that we had a group of rooms. We were going with, I don't even know the number at that time that had, you know, signed up to go. But it was a lot of kids. It was all of our friends, and that they would have a great time.
And from that, did he give you any sense or say anything about who from was it just himself, or like who was coming along?
He had mentioned that it would be the kids, and he said Karen would be joining him as well.
And at that point, at some point subsequent to that, you knew him to be referring to Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
At that point, had you met Karen Reed? Did you know who that was?
I had not. I knew that they were dating, but I had never met Karen, no.
And in addition to himself, it would be Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, the defendant, and his niece and nephew, Patrick and Taylor.
Correct, yes.
And if you know, in relation to your son, as far as Mr. O'Keefe's nephew, Patrick, where are they in relation as far as ages?
They're like three years apart. 3 years apart.
Now, when you have that phone conversation with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, interest does he show as far as going through?
After, you know, asking a couple questions, I could hear Karen in the background, and he put Karen on the phone, and that was the first time I had spoken to her. He basically said, just talk to her so you can answer her questions.
Can you recall what kind of questions they were, or what it was about?
She was interested in the room setup, how many people could sleep in a room, and how the room is set up. You have a king-size bedroom, and then there's a kitchen area, and then there's a living room that has a pull-out couch. And I explained that it's a 4-person occupancy room, and you could get a roll-away bed as well.
And following that conversation, when was the next time, if at all, that you had any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed in regard to the Aruba?
So during that conversation, Karen mentioned that she needed her own bathroom and she needed her own space, and that she wanted 2 rooms. And so I put them in contact with a woman that I knew had 2 rooms for them to, you know, figure that piece out. I don't handle any of that. I put people in contact with whoever owns the rooms. I put them in contact with the woman who had the 2 rooms, and I know that they had, you know, paid her relatively quickly. I mentioned to John that the rooms, I couldn't promise that the rooms would be next to each other, and they weren't. They were on opposite sides of the hotel, but they got 2 rooms.
And when you say opposite sides of the hotel, where do you know sort of where those rooms were in relation to each other, and who stayed in which room?
So the pool and lobby is in the center, and then the hotel comes like this, and there are pool walkout rooms on the first floor of each. And Karen and John were on this side, and the kids were on this side, and they both had walkout rooms.
And as far as sort of front door to front door, do you know about how far away they were from each other?
I would say, I mean, steps wise, maybe 200. But the hotel is it's small enough, but it was separated by a lobby, the front entrance, the outside entrance.
Now, with regard to your arrival, when was it that you arrived in Aruba?
So the timeshare rooms run Friday to Friday. So we were booked for the 31st through the 7th. Josh's birthday is December 30th, so we went down as a family a day early. And we had friends who were already down there since Christmas. John's timeshare room woman reached out and said, hey, we're leaving early if you want to arrive early. So him, Karen, and the kids actually came down on the 30th as well. They were on the flight following us. And then the rest of the 60-ish people, however many were there, showed up on the 31st.
And so from that first day that you arrived there, as far as when you got there on the 30th, when was the first time that you saw John, or when was the first time that you saw anyone from that group?
It was, we were at the pool, so it was not long after they had landed. He texted me and said, we're here. And Ben and I jumped out of the pool and went to the lobby to see him. And then on the way back from the lobby, I saw somebody banging on the window on the left-hand side of the rooms, and I didn't know who it was. And then I saw Kaylee, and I was like, oh, well, that must be Karen.
And again, was this the first time that you had seen Karen face-to-face or met Ms. Reed?
Yes.
And just for clarity purposes, as far as Ms. Reed is concerned, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She's right there.
Just has the record reflect identification of identified.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, after you see this person bang on the window and you recognize Kaylee, what happened?
She came out, she gave me a big hug, said, it's nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. I recognized you from pictures.
And following along from there, what happened then as far as the day was concerned?
So as I mentioned, it was Josh's birthday. We had already made plans to go out for dinner. Our friends who had been there since Christmas have a 17-year-old daughter who watched our children so we could go out for dinner. I mentioned it to John. I said, we'll just add you to the reservation. You can join us for dinner. The kids can stay with Chloe. And they said, absolutely. So we all went out for dinner that evening to Screaming Eagle.
And Screaming Eagle, where is that in relation to the hotel, the rents?
It's probably about a 15-ish minute cab ride.
And when you arrived there, what, if anything, do you recall about sort of the dinner or how it went?
So we were sitting outside on the patio. It was Karen, myself, our friend Laura. Across from Laura was her husband, Dave. Josh was in front of me, and John was in front of Karen.
And what, if anything, specific do you recall about the dinner or sort of what happened at dinner?
So we, the waiter came over. He started taking drink orders. Karen placed her order. I placed mine. Laura placed hers, Dave placed his, and then Josh ordered a dirty martini with blue cheese stuffed olives.
Objection.
I'll allow it. I don't know where it's going, and you can move to strike unless you wanted to see me, Mr. Yannetti. Okay.
So, Ms. Sullivan, turning back to at the restaurants, drinks that are ordered, people have what they have. And at the end of the evening, as far as the bill comes at some point, correct?
Correct.
And what, if anything, do you recall about that?
Karen had paid the bill prior to us receiving it.
And what, if any, reaction did you or anyone have in regard to it?
The entire table was kind of taken aback, said it wasn't necessary, wanted to Venmo or give cash or something along those lines, and she declined, saying that she was honored to be there and wanted to pay for it.
Turning your attention to the following day, what, if anything, do you recall about the next day being that would have been, I'm sorry, the 31st, is that correct?
Yes.
So turning your attention to December 31st, 2021, what, if anything, do you recall about that day in specific regard to Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed?
John was very vocal on the 30th on how he just wanted to sit in the pool and watch the Alabama game.
And he was a pretty big Alabama fan, is that correct?
Yes.
And so over the course of that day, what, if any, interaction did you have with either, starting with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, interaction did you have with him that day?
I saw him in the pool. I know he was sitting at the pool bar watching the game with Josh. I saw the kids. I recall seeing Karen. I don't remember if we spoke or not. But it was mostly in the pool because we were waiting for the rest of our friends to show up.
Now, amongst the rest of your friends that showed up, do you have any siblings?
I do.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 2.
And brother or sister?
I have a younger brother and a younger sister.
And with reference to your younger sister, what's her name?
Marietta.
And how much younger than you is Marietta?
She's 10 years younger than me.
And was Marietta Sullivan, was she coming in on that day as well?
She was.
And do you recall about what time it was that she arrived or that she came to the hotel? When was the first time you saw her?
It's tough to remember, but I want to say everybody showed up on one of the first or second flights that came out of Boston. So I would say she was there by 1 p.m.
And if you recall, what, if any, plans were there as far as dinner was concerned on that evening of New Year's Eve?
So what we tend to do is book reservations, and if people are interested in joining, they can join us. And that night we had approximately 40 people going to have dinner on the beach at Moomba Beach. Around, I want to say it was like 7 o'clock, we had our reservations for.
And did Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Reed, join you for dinner that evening?
They did not, no.
Now, let me take a step back just for a moment. As far as Ms. Reed was concerned, prior to your arrival in Aruba, did you have her phone number or did you have any way of contacting her?
No.
And when was it that you got Ms. Reed's phone number?
John had added her and I and Chloe to a group text the night that we had gone out for dinner to make sure that we could all communicate with Chloe to make sure the kids were okay.
So you got her phone number in relation to watching kids as far as Patrick and Kaylee and your children and everybody else?
Correct.
Now, if you recall, you go out to dinner, you think the reservation was about 7 or so. Do you recall about what time it was that you got back to the hotel?
I want to say it was around 9:30, 10 o'clock by the time my group got back. I know there was a couple different seatings, so we probably got back around like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
And as far as your group was concerned, your sister Marietta, was she within your group that went out to dinner?
Yes. Yep.
And beyond your younger sister Marietta, did you have other sort of immediate family with you on this trip as well?
My mother was with us as well.
And with regard to your sister Marietta and your mother, what, if anything, was there as far as where were each of them staying?
So they had their own room. I think it was a couple away from us on the 5th floor.
And is that the top floor as far as this hotel is concerned?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, once you arrived back from dinner, where was it that you and your group went?
We go to the pool area. The kids can swim. We ring in the new year at the pool bar, watching it on the TVs, and then watching the fireworks.
Now, when you came back to the hotel and you went at some point to the pool area, your sister Marietta, do you know where she went?
She actually, when we got back from dinner, she went up to her room with my mom and essentially put my mom to bed because she didn't want to be up anymore. But she went to go change as well.
Now, when you came down to the pool area, as far as Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed was concerned, did you see them in that area?
I saw John, I want to say around 10:30-ish. I don't know the exact time. It was definitely before midnight.
And where in relation to the hotel did you see him at 10:30?
He was standing behind me at the pool bar.
And at some point does your sister come out to the pool area after putting your mother to bed?
Yeah, so right before I saw John at the pool bar, I saw my sister. She came out and she was visibly upset.
And, Your Honor, in regard, excuse me, to the instruction that you had requested about this, maybe.
All right, thank you. So, jurors, you're about to hear testimony about certain conduct or behavior allegedly committed by Ms. Reed. Be mindful that the defendant is not charged with committing any crimes other than those charged within the indictments. The witness's testimony may not and indeed must not be considered by you as any evidence that the defendant has a bad character or as evidence that she has a propensity to commit the crimes with which she has been charged. You may not take the defendant's prior acts as a substitute for proof that the defendant committed the crimes charged here, but you may consider the acts solely on the limited issue of the state of mind of the defendant and the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe as it might go to motive or intent. You may not consider this evidence for any other purpose. Specifically, you may not use it to conclude that if the defendant committed the act or acts, that she must also have committed the offenses with which she's charged. You can only use the evidence for the limited purpose of how it goes to the defendant's state of mind, the nature of her relationship with John O'Keefe, as it may go to motive. And just for the records, my findings are the same that I made at sidebar previously. So, go ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Now, with regard to, at some point, your sister comes out to the pool area where you were, is that right?
Correct.
And do you know where Mr. O'Keefe was at that point?
I do not know.
And when your sister comes out to the pool area, what happened?
She said,
Yeah, that's sustained. I thought you were doing something else.
When your sister comes out to the pool area, how would you describe her demeanor when she comes out?
Objection. Ask me.
No, I'll allow that.
she was frustrated.
And at some point, did you have a conversation, without regard to what the conversation was, at some point, did you have a conversation with her about something that had just happened?
Yes.
Now, following that conversation with your sister, at some point subsequent to that, Mr. O'Keefe come back out to the pool area.
After I spoke with her, yes, he came out to the pool area.
And do you know about how long a period of time it was between the time that your sister came out to the pool area and Mr. O'Keefe came out to the pool area?
I mean, I would say approximately 20 minutes, but I don't really know exact timing.
Now, when Mr. O'Keefe came back out, did you have any conversation with him?
I did.
And can you describe that conversation for me?
All right, is this the instruction that you were talking about instead of the other one? All right, so jurors, I have another instruction for you. So you're about to hear evidence of statements made by John O'Keefe. Is that accurate now, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. These statements are being admitted only for a limited purpose of establishing John O'Keefe's state of mind. You're not to consider this testimony as proof that the defendant has a bad character or propensity to commit crimes. The testimony of witnesses recounting conversations with Mr. O'Keefe can only be used as they go to the defendant's motive or intent on January 28th or 29th, and only if you find that the defendant was aware of Mr. O'Keefe's state of mind at the time of the crime and would be likely to respond to it. There need not be direct evidence that the defendant learned of Mr. O'Keefe's state of mind, so long as you reasonably can infer from the evidence that she did learn of it. Okay, Mr. Lally.
This is subject to our objection. Is that
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Sullivan, if I could take you back again. So Mr. O'Keefe comes out, you have a conversation with him. Can you describe to the jury what that conversation was about?
I turned around and I was pretty shocked to see him. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Nothing." I said, "Did Etta and Karen have words?" And he said, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, that's not what Etta said." And I asked him if everything was okay. And at that time, his phone was lighting up, and it looked like calls and texts, and it said Karen on his phone.
After you make that observation, what, if anything, did you say to John?
I asked him if he needed to take it, and he said, "Yes, she's crazy. I got to take care of this."
And was that the last time that you saw him on New Year's Eve?
It is.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, New Year's Day, did you see either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed at all on that day?
I did not. I saw the children, but we didn't see them that day, no.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, being January 2nd, what was sort of the plan as far as what was going on that day?
Our hotel has a private island. The hotel that we stay at has a private island, and we rented all 8 of the cabanas between the 60 of us that were there. And when the cabanas went on sale, I had reached out to John and asked him if he wanted me to get him one. And he said, sure. So I booked one for him, and he paid me for that cabana. So we all went out that morning. And it was probably around, 10 o'clock in the morning, and they weren't there yet. And so I sent him a text and I said, are you coming, or do you want me to sell this cabana? Because there was other, couples there, at least he could have made, the money back. And he asked me who was there. And I said, everybody. And I named off a couple names. I'm not really sure. But I said, everybody's here.
And when you said that, how did Mr. O'Keefe respond?
He said, well, apparently I made out with your sister the other night, according to Karen.
Now, is that the first time that you had heard that?
Yes.
So fair to say whatever you had heard from your sister on December 31st was not that?
Objection.
No, I'll allow that.
Correct.
And what was your reaction when Mr. O'Keefe told you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I was shocked. I immediately found my sister and said, did you make out with John?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, when you went to talk to your sister, who was it that your sister was with when you went to talk to her about that?
I don't recall who was standing near her. Maybe my mom. I don't know.
As far as your sister was concerned at that time, was she dating someone?
Yes,
And the person that she was dating, was that person on the trip as well?
he was. Yes.
And was that person that she was dating that was on the trip as well? Were they at the cabanas on that day that you were there?
They were. Yes.
Now, as far as you have some conversation in regard to your sister, and then at some point you go back and have further conversation with Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, I said I texted him back. I said, I just talked to Etta. She said, absolutely not. That did not happen.
Objection. Move to strike.
That's sustained. I'll strike that.
Now, at some point after that exchange, did Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed and or the kids come out to the cabana area?
They did. Yes.
And at any point, how would you describe sort of how Mr. O'Keefe and or Ms. Reed was acting when they came out to the cabana?
Karen immediately went in the water. I just recall her being like floating in the ocean for a good chunk of the day. John was hopping around from the different cabanas talking to people. One of my favorite pictures of him is with my son from that day.
Did you have any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe once he came out to the cabana area?
No, we kind of just kept it light. We didn't really talk about anything that had happened. I was just kind of trying to stay out of it for now.
And following sort of the Cabana situation or the Cabana day, what happened then?
So post that day, I think I saw John one other time. I saw him in the pool. It was the one time that him and I were alone. He didn't seem like he was himself.
I'll allow it.
He seemed distant, and I asked him if he was okay. And he kind of just, shrugged it off. And I said, are you happy? And he kind of, just rolled his eyes and shrugged it off. I said, well, something along the lines of life is too short to not be happy. And he goes, well, Laura, it is what it is. And I did ask him if he wanted to talk about it. I said, do you want to talk about it? And he's like, not really.
So following that exchange in the pool area, when was the next time that you saw John?
I'd spoken to him. We all went on the Jolly Pirate. We had all bought tickets in advance, so we had basically rented the whole boat for everybody to go. We had bought 4 tickets, and we had gotten a bus from our hotel. And he didn't show up for the bus and wasn't answering my calls or my texts. And then we finally got down to where the boat was. The boat was about to leave, and he messaged me. He's like, not going to make it. Kids slept late. And so I didn't think anything of it. Then after that, I saw him and Karen the night before they left. And they ended up leaving a day or two early so that the kids could get back to school.
And when you saw them, where was that in relation to the hotel?
Right outside the hotel is a marketplace that has a bunch of restaurants and arcade. I was sitting at the 5 o'clock somewhere bar that looks into the arcade with my best friend Val, and my friends Dave and Laura and Karen and John walked up.
What, if any, conversation did you have with either Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant at that time?
Karen grabbed me and she said, hey, I'm sorry. I thought I saw something that I didn't, and I would like to pay for some of your sister's room.
And how did you respond to that?
I said it's absolutely not necessary. Just an apology will do.
And did she persist in wanting to pay for the room?
She did.
And how so?
She just said, I will apologize, but something along the lines of, I want to pay for some of her room. Can I just have her room number? I don't remember if I gave her the room number or not. I don't really know.
And with regard to that trip, when was the next time, or when was the last time that you saw John?
So the day that they were leaving, I saw him by the pool. He came up, he gave me a big hug. He said, I love you. This was a great trip. Thank you so much. And I said, well, you're definitely in again for next year. And he said, absolutely. And that was the last time I physically saw him.
And so that conversation, just turning back for a moment, as far as with regard to Ms. Reed, do you know what day that would have been, as far as in relation to when they were leaving? Early January, 37th?
I want to say it was the 5th. I want to say it was January 5th.
Now, after Aruba, did you have any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe after that?
I talked to him via text a couple times about a couple different things, but one of them was, as I mentioned, we start planning a year in advance, and I said, rooms are coming available. Are you in? And he said, let me recover from this trip first.
Now, ma'am, if I could turn your attention to Saturday, January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that day?
I do.
And at some point that morning or during that day, did you get a call?
I did. I received a call from,
Objection.
I'll hear that she received a call from someone.
I received a call from my aunt.
And what did you learn in the call from your aunt?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
That John O'Keefe had passed away.
And after you hung up the phone with your aunt, what did you do with that?
I,
Objection.
I'm here to subject to striking.
I called him. I called anybody's number that I had associated with the family. I ended up calling Kaylee. I texted Kaylee. I texted Karen.
And without any regard to what Kaylee said, did Kaylee respond to you via text?
She did.
And then at some point, did the defendant, Ms. Reed, respond to you as well?
She did.
Was that a phone call or a text, or how did she respond?
It was a text later that afternoon.
And do you recall what she said in the text that you got?
She said, "Hi, Laura. John has passed." And
Recall what, if anything, you responded to that?
I said, "Oh my God, what happened?" And she said, "We found him in the snow at 5 a.m."
And what, if anything, did you ask, or how did you respond?
I said, "What happened?" I just recall, kind of going into a tailspin, asking a bunch of questions. And she mentioned, she said, "I don't know. We were both at the same party. I didn't go in. I went home."
I may have a moment, Jane.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further for this witness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sullivan.
Good afternoon.
You were not present at the Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 28th of 2022 in Canton.
I was not.
You were not present at 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th of 2022.
It's not.
Yet you'll agree with me that Michael Proctor, the state police trooper, visited you at your home all the way in Pembroke, Massachusetts on February 8th of 2022
Yes.
to interview you?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Anything, Mr. Lally?
Just briefly, as far as Trooper Proctor coming to your house, was he alone, or who, if anyone else, was he with when he came?
He was with another trooper,
Okay. And do you recall who that trooper was?
Trooper Fanning.
Nothing further on.
Ms. Sullivan, you are all.